All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am calling to order the regular meeting of the zoning administrator for the city of San Clemente. My name is Cecilia Gallardo Daly. I'm the zoning administrator. The first item of business on the agenda will be to receive and file the minutes of the zoning administrator meeting of March 4, 2021. So received and filed. The next item on the agenda is oral and written communication. This is the time on the agenda when members of the audience may address the zoning administrator on any item within the jurisdiction of the zoning administrator that's not on the agenda. Speakers can submit their comments electronically, and we request that those be emailed to the zoning administrator by noon on zoning administrator meeting days. And that web address is www.san-clemente.org/ZAP, ZA public comment rather, so ZA public comment. So I do not have any non-agenda public comment requests at this time. So we will move on to the next section of the agenda, which is public hearings. The public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. So the first public hearing item on the agenda today is a minor exception permit for the Breen in-bank garage. And we'll have our staff planner, David Carrillo, give us a presentation on this item. Thank you, David.
Hi, good afternoon. So this project is a minor exception permit. It is located at 170 Avenida de la Paz in the residential low and special residential 2 zone. It is in a single family residential neighborhood east of the Interstate 5 near the upper campus of San Clemente High School. So again, this is a request for a street-facing attached one-car garage within the required front yard setback, 5 feet from the front property line, along with a roof deck right above it. Here, the required front yard setback for a street-facing garage is 18 feet. So that would be a 13-foot encroachment. So why is this proposed? So this is proposed to reduce the need for mass grading and to satisfy the parking requirement of 1 parking space for a guest house, which is proposed in conjunction with a single family home under a building permit. The code requires zoning administrator approval of a minor exception permit to allow a 5-foot front yard setback for a garage when a 10-foot grade difference occurs within 25 feet of the front property line. And that is a condition here on this property. This exception opportunity is provided to reduce mass grading. So if the garage were to meet the required 18-foot front yard setback, 326 cubic yards of excavation would be required versus 156 cubic yards with the reduced front yard setback of 5 feet from the front property line. So the project complies with special garage requirements, including a 15-foot height limit when architectural interest is provided on the roof. So staff determines, since the roof is not flat and provides a pitch and materials that are consistent with the primary building, that the roof height is in compliance with this standard. The roof deck is also in compliance with the encroachment section of the code, which allows roof decks to encroach into the front yard setback as much as the subject structure is allowed to encroach. So if this permit would be supported, the roof deck would be able to encroach as far as the in-bank garage. So staff recommends that findings be made since the project maintains the intended use of the property within the zone as residential and accommodates a 1-car garage for a guest house permitted in the residential low zone. The project allows the property owner to meet parking requirements for a guest house without requiring significant grading. Front yard landscaping requirements and maximum height and lot coverage standards are satisfied. The project is conditioned to provide a sidewalk easement for use by the public. The front yard encroachment requires 156 cubic yards of excavation compared to 326 cubic yards of excavation if the garage were proposed with an 18-foot front yard setback. And lastly, the front yard encroachment reduces the amount of building area above the natural grade by cutting into the soil. So therefore, staff recommends that the zoning administrator determine the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15305 and adopt resolution ZA number 21-005 approving minor exception permit 20-396. And that concludes my presentation. And we do have the architect and property owners on the call.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, David. I do have a question. The zoning code does allow the approval of the reduced front yard setback for the garage with a minor exception permit when there is the 10-foot grade difference within 25 feet of the front property line, if the findings can be met. I'm having a hard time finding that this roof has architectural interest. That's just not shown on the plans. So I don't know if that's something that you can answer for me, or we'll wait and have the applicants address that in their presentation.
Yeah, I can give staff's position on that. So I did compare that to a garage, in-bank garage that would have a flat roof without any roof. They did have the option of doing an open railing since the roof deck would be above. The staff felt since they're actually providing a roof that matches the materials and a roof pitch consistent with the primary building, that we thought it'd be well integrated into the architecture.
Okay, thank you. All right, would the applicant like to make any comments or address the zoning administrator at this time?
Holly Breen or Chris Forcell, anyone?
Hey, here's Chris.
Hi, Chris.
You got me? Hi, how are
Yeah.
you? Good. Hey, our intention was to put that mansard around 3 sides of the roof deck and conceal the guardrail within it. Am I hearing you say you would like to see something more interesting than that?
Well, the plans that I have don't give me any idea of materials or colors. I'm looking at sheet A6 of the plans that were submitted as part of this packet. And for a structure that's 5 feet from the public right of way, I'm not showing where this roof has architectural interest based on the findings that are required. So if you could maybe tell me how you would address that with the plans that you submitted, or how you think the plans get at that, or where the plans identify that this has been addressed.
Give me 1 second. Yes. On A, you're looking at A6.
Yes.
So on the east, south, east, and west elevations, the guardrail is a mansard roof, and the product is the Class A, like GAF Timberline product. And I think the south elevation is probably the best example of the mansard.
Well, how did? Hi, this is Holly Breen. I'm not really sure if anyone can hear me.
Oh, hi, Holly. Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi. So there will be so the above the house. It's hard because I'm sorry I don't have a set of plans in front of me, but the roof above on that house will have siding. I mean, we're doing architectural elements with siding. And I apologize, I don't have a set of the plans in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly where it is, but I mean, we are definitely making when you drive up to the house, there will be architectural elements on the upper area above that you could see from the street, because there's the deck, and behind the deck there is like facing of the house. and the roof.
Mhm.
If that makes any sense, I'm so sorry. My Zoom's not working. And
No, that's okay. I think I understand what you're saying. Right now, the plans just say new stucco. So you're
Okay.
saying that there's actually going to be something besides stucco on
correct.
the
We're doing siding,
elevation.
a board and batten
Okay,
siding.
got it.
And then next to the garage, so that because we could only do a 1-car garage, there's next to the garage, there is a wall, and there we are also going to do siding. So actually, as you drive up, it's not just going to be stucco. There'll be siding to the right of the garage door, and then above the deck, there will be siding on the roof as well. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it does. It does. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
that clarification, Polly. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right. I got it now. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Is there anything else the applicants would like to add at this point?
No, I just thank you for your consideration.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. At this time, I am going to open the public hearing. David, have we received any comments from the public on this item that need to be read into the record?
We have not received any.
No public comments? Okay.
No public comments, yeah.
All right, thank you. Then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And as I mentioned, the code allows a minor exception permit to be approved for a reduction in the front yard setback when there is the grade differential that's exists on this site. And the purpose, and David addressed this, the purpose of allowing garages to encroach into the front yard setback on these types of lots that have the topography is to reduce grading and fill so that structures can follow the natural topography, either stepping up or stepping down with the lot. And there are other properties in the area that have this condition. So I'm satisfied that the applicant has provided enough information to show that the proposed project does satisfy the required findings for the minor exception permit with the architectural interest provided. And the other requirement is that the roll-up doors be part of the project. And I see that that is a part of the plans. So I am able to make the findings for the minor exception permit. The requested minor exception will not interfere with the purpose of the zone or the standards of the zone in which the property is located. Neighboring properties will not be adversely affected as a result of the approval of the minor exception permit. The approval of the minor exception permit will not be detrimental to health, safety, or welfare. The project does comply with the requirements of the code and will be required to be reviewed by the building division for compliance with the building code and the Orange County Fire Authority for compliance with fire codes. The encroachment complies with the standards of the zoning code section 17.32.050E4 in that the proposed mansard roof provides architectural interest. The topography map was prepared by a registered engineer to show the topography of the site, and the roll-up door is proposed as part of the subject project. The slope of the front of the lot is significant enough in both length and width that the requirement of the standard front yard setback will result in significant grading and or fill. And the proposed project reduces the need for mass grading or fill and allows structures on the site to follow the natural topography. So with that, I will determine that the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15305, class 5, minor alterations in land use limitations. And I adopt resolution ZA number 21-005, approving the minor exception permit 20-396, Breen in-bank garage, subject to the conditions of approval. All right, thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Holly and Chris and Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to the next public hearing item. It is a tentative parcel map for the Cazador condominiums, and we'll have our staff planner, Katie Crockett, give us a presentation on that item.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This project is tentative parcel map 18-195, a request to convert an existing fourplex into condominiums for individual ownership. The project is located at 301 Cazador Lane at the corner of Cazador Lane and Ola Vista. The fourplex was completed in 2018 and was initially reviewed through the cultural heritage permit process, since the site is within 300 feet of a historic structure. Minor exceptions were also previously permitted to allow some minor encroachments into the front and street side setbacks. During the CHP review, the project was found to comply with all zoning ordinance requirements and was found to be consistent with general plan policies as well as design guidelines. The request is to convert the existing 4 units into 4 units for separate ownership through a parcel map. No physical modifications to the site are proposed. Staff found that the condominium conversion meets all requirements of the San Clemente Municipal Code, section 16.40.010B, including that the density is consistent with the required zoning. As I mentioned, it was just recently reviewed and permitted in the last several years. Required parking is provided, and appropriate attractive landscape is present on the subject property, as can be seen from the photos of both street frontages included in the staff report. Additionally, the municipal code restricts the number of rental units that may be converted to for sale condominiums in a given year if the city's prior year vacancy rate is below 10%. The city's vacancy rate for 2019, which we used because we hadn't adopted a 2020 vacancy rate, it was below 10%. So staff did do that count of the number of conversions to for sale units in 2020 and so far in 2021. And we're well below the cap for those conversions, and that information is in your report. The project is in the coastal zone, so coastal approval is required prior to the final map being recorded, as reflected in condition of approval number 2.4. Because the building is existing and the project proposes only the airspace subdivision to convert the existing units to for sale condominium units, the project qualifies for categorical exemption under CEQA Class 1 for existing facilities and Class 15 for minor land divisions. Staff recommends approval of tentative tract map 2018-195, subject to the conditions of approval listed in the resolution. It looks like the project applicant, Chris Pierce, was here, but he was not sure he was going to be able to make it. He has been traveling for business, and so it looks like he may have had to hop off for work. So, but he does appreciate the consideration given to the request and has no objections to any of the conditions of approval. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Cecilia, you're muted.
Thank you. Well, I don't have any follow-up questions. Thank you, Katie. The staff report and presentation were very thorough. Okay, so the applicant isn't present to speak. I will open the public hearing at this time. Do we have any comments from the public on this item?
The city has not received any comments for this item.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me look and see if what I have. Sorry, I did receive an email, but I don't believe it was related to this item. Okay, all right. Okay, so with that, we'll close the public hearing, and the proposed condominium subdivision is a request to subdivide the airspace of the lot to create 4 condominium units. The proposal would allow for separate ownership of each condominium unit and a portion of common areas. No physical modifications to the existing building or site are requested as part of this application. So, and also the subdivision complies with the coastal land use plan, which requires that subdivisions do not impact community character adversely and are compatible with coastal resources. And there's a condition in the permit that requires the owner to obtain a permit from the California Coastal Commission. So with that, I can make the tentative parcel map findings that the site is suitable for the type of development. The site is physically suitable for the proposed density of the development. The design of the condominium subdivision is not likely to cause substantial environmental damage or substantially and avoidably injure fish or wildlife in their habitat. The design of the condominium subdivision is not likely to cause serious public health problems. The condominium subdivision is consistent with the general plan and coastal land use plan, and the design of the condominium subdivision will not conflict with easements acquired by the public at large for access through or use of the property within the proposed subdivision. So with that, I'll determine that the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15315. That's class 15 minor land divisions and 15301K class 1 existing facilities. And I approve resolution ZA 21-006, tentative parcel map 2018-195, planning number 19-488, the Cazador condominium subdivision, subject to the conditions of approval. Great. Okay, thank you, Katie. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is a minor exception permit for 110 West Avenida, Magdalena. And we will have our staff planner, Katie Crockett, give us a report on that item. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. This project is a request to allow a 6-foot high wall within the street side yard setback of a single family residence. The project is located at 110 West Avenida, Magdalena, at the corner of Avenida Magdalena and Avenida del Presidente. Avenida del Presidente runs parallel to and just on the west side of the I-5 freeway. The proposed wall will be located along the rear half of the side property line along Avenida del Presidente. The wall will be approximately 6 feet back from the property line. The street side setback in this case is 10 feet. So it is encroaching, which is why we need to have a minor exception permit. And it will have a 6-foot exposed height as viewed from the street. As previously mentioned, across the street from the proposed wall is a chain link fence that separates the city's right-of-way on Del Presidente with the freeway with Caltrans right-of-way. There are also no currently developed properties that front Del Presidente. All of them either, all of the other properties on Del Presidente are either they have their rear on Del Presidente, or some to the south have their side property line. But at this time, there aren't any front yards. There is one vacant parcel directly to the north that will probably take its frontage off of Avenida del Presidente. But, you know, at this time, there's no front yards that would be impacted. So let's see. So the applicant had applied for this. They recently constructed this home, and they had applied for this because after constructing the home, they had experienced a number of incidences of trespassing, vandalism, theft, probably due to its location and the fact that there isn't a lot of activity there except through traffic. So the primary concern for this project from the city's perspective was that the wall be placed out of the required site distance area so that vehicles pulling out of from Avenida Magdalena to Avenida del Presidente would be able to see cars approaching from their left as they came south on Del Presidente. Engineering reviewed and had the applicant move the wall back from the property line from where they originally had proposed it. And so it's out of the required site distance area now. I did have a conversation with one member of the public who was concerned about the site distance, particularly given that Del Presidente is a relatively heavily traveled road by both vehicles as well as it's a bikeway and also pedestrians, runners, that type of thing. So this member of the public also spoke with engineering related to the requirements and the review they conducted, and they didn't send any further comments in. On the plans, you'll note 2 options for the proposed walls. This is just due to the slope and how the walls would have to potentially be engineered. The applicant wanted to save the cost of having the wall or walls engineered if the zoning administrator were unable to grant the minor exception permit. So that's just why there's 2 options there. However, with either option, as shown on the plans, the result would be a wall with a 6-foot visible height as viewed from the street from Del Presidente. The wall will be finished with smooth white plaster and a concrete cap consistent with other walls at the property and as pictured in the report and plans. Additionally, the 6-foot setback provides ample area for landscape in front of the wall, which is required in condition of approval 4.5. Although they will need to keep any landscape within the site distance area trimmed per engineering's condition of approval number 7.17. And this includes an existing tree that is currently in the site distance area that will be required to be removed. So staff does recommend that the project be found categorically exempt from CEQA under class 3 for new construction of small structures, which includes accessory structures such as walls and fences. We recommend that the minor exception permit be granted to allow the 6-foot wall within the street side yard setback. This concludes staff presentation. I'm available to answer questions, and we did receive 1 public comment, which I can read into the record. Did you want me to go ahead and do that?
Let's hold off on that.
Okay.
I don't have any follow-up questions. I noted that there was the condition of approval with regard to landscaping, and in the applicant's letter, they identified landscaping as a part of the project in between the sidewalk and the proposed wall location. So at this time, I'd like to ask the applicant if they would like to speak or address the zoning administrator on this item.
Yes, please. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Philip. I'm the property owner and also the owner builder of the home. I'd like to thank the zoning administration for their consideration and also Katie for your thorough report. Everything was spelled out exactly as we intended. And I just wanted to address the administration as to the purpose and why we really are looking to construct this wall as opposed to the code allowed 42 or 33.5-foot wall within the property line. It started as an aesthetic desire to kind of complete the overall look of the Spanish style of the house with a fence or wall along the property line to go along with the look of the house. But also it was developed along with an attempt to discourage the heavy amount of trash that's been thrown into our property. As our backyard and most of our property sits below the sidewalk grade, if you will, bottles, cigarettes, you can imagine what's been thrown down into the area where my children play. And also from a security standpoint, it's quite often that we hear screeching tires coming off of the freeway and people coming quickly around the corner. So we like to try and protect our property, not just the house, but my children playing below. And kind of the final straw in really pushing to get this minor exception permit was an attempted act of theft and breaking into the home, where someone actually accessed my property through the area where I'm proposing to build the wall, climbing down into the property, trying to get into the house, and ultimately entering my wife's vehicle around the side of the house, attempting to either steal a vehicle or its contents. And I believe I forwarded a video of this to the zoning staff, to Katie, just as some evidence to have along with the file. So, and actually after that attempted break-in, I later found out after reviewing my security footage that the perpetrator returned to the home and actually stole a bicycle out of the backyard. So in short, it's mostly for safety that we're trying to do this. And regarding the landscaping in front of the wall, we definitely want to keep it consistent with native vegetation, as well as knowing that we are going to need to remove that tree that is blocking the sightline from the street. So with that, thank you very much for hearing our proposal.
All right, thank you, Philip. All right, at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. Katie, do you want to go ahead and read that letter from the public? Thank you.
Yes, it says, this wall will help reduce the freeway noise at our condo at 2490 South Ola Vista. Since Caltrans grooved the freeway, it gets louder and louder as traffic increases. Please approve this wall. Robert Peters, Horizons Condominium board member. And that's all the public comment that I have.
Okay, thank you. So this time I will close the public hearing. All right. So the zoning ordinance allows exceptions to the maximum height limit for fences or walls within the street side setback to have up to a 6-foot height for 6-foot height with approval of a minor exception permit. And we want to make sure that this property is protected. It is a very visible and prominent corner. The proposed wall is set back 4 to 6 feet from the property line to maintain the driving sight distance for the intersection at West Avenida Magdalena. The applicant is proposing landscape between the right-of-way and the proposed wall to soften the appearance. The proposed wall will be finished with smooth white plaster with a concrete cap to complement the existing site walls and the Spanish architecture of the residence. This will allow for privacy and security for the residents while providing an attractive wall along the street scene there. And neighboring properties will not be adversely affected by the placement of the 6-foot wall within the street side setback. Most of the other properties along Avenida del Presidente have chain link fence along that frontage. So the proposed wall is compatible with the character of the neighborhood. I am able to make the findings for the minor exception permit for the new 6-foot wall within the street side setback. The requested minor exception will not interfere with the purpose of the zone or the standards of the zone in which the property is located. Neighboring properties will not be adversely affected as a result of the approval of the minor exception permit. The approval of the minor exception permit will not be detrimental to health, safety, or welfare of the general public. The Building and Engineering Division will review the structural design prior to the construction of any improvements requiring the building permit. And the height of the wall will not be unsightly or incompatible with the character of or uses in the neighborhood. And the height of the wall will not have negative visual impacts upon the street scene or obstruct views of traffic to and from driveways. So with that, I determined that the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15303, class 3, new construction or conversion of small structures. And I approve resolution ZA 21-007, approving minor exception permit 20-102, the Magdalena wall, subject to conditions of approval. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next public hearing item on the agenda. And that is a minor exception permit for the Hong residents. And we'll have our staff planner, Chris Wright, provide us with a presentation. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Tara, can you pull up my PowerPoint, please? Thank you. Next slide, please. The first slide. There we go. This is a request to have a 651 square foot addition to a single family home at 244 Esplanade, and that is in a residential low density zone. The project requires a minor exception permit. Next slide. Requires a minor exception permit because the building does not meet the side and required rear yard setback, required rear and side setbacks of the zone. And you can see that on the slide. The red line is the required setback of the zone. And the applicant is requesting a minor exception permit to allow a portion of the building to go beyond that setback line with a requested reduction of the required side and rear setback. And that is provided in the zoning code with a minor exception permit. The blue areas there protrude beyond the requested reduced setbacks, and I'll touch on that in a minute. So staff is supportive of this application for several reasons. First, the home meets all the zoning standards except the minor exception requested. The overall design is high quality with massing and scale and character and compatible with the neighborhood for several reasons. First, the addition is proposed under a cantilevered second story. So the project would not expand the overall profile and footprint of the building closer to property lines. However, there is space that is sufficient for compatibility with adjacent uses and also character with the setback on the adjoining lot to the setback on the side yard where the minor exception permit is requested. On the rear yard, the property is adjoining a open space area on the residential lot. So there aren't any structures on that side. The building would not be next to a building, therefore. However, the building would eliminate these blue areas shaded here that protrude beyond the orange line, and therefore actually reducing the profile of the building closer to what the required setbacks are of the zone. So staff supports the application, recommends the zoning administrator adopt the attached resolution and also find that the application is exempt from CEQA as a class 1. Thank you. The applicant and architect are on the call.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Well, I don't have any follow-up questions. The staff report laid out very well what is proposed, and the plans and exhibits showed clearly what was being requested. So at this time, I'd like to ask the applicants if they would like to speak at this time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes.
Hi, I'm Victoria. My husband Vito and I, first of all, love San Clemente. We moved here a year ago yesterday from Buffalo, New York. So you can imagine how much we love it here in February, March, January. Christopher, I want to thank you for working with us and helping Vito and I kind of guide through this whole permitting process. We've never done anything like this. We just want to build a legacy home where our children want to come back. We're trying to lure them back because they're in their 20s now, and we can't do it with the existing structure. So we thank the administration for considering this, and we hope we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, this is Ian Buchan. I just want to clarify on that exhibit. It looked like the blue was noted as areas to be to me encroach, and the green was areas to be removed. It was backwards, I think, on that exhibit. The green, the smaller slice that's inside of the reduced setback is to remain, and the blue portions that stick out beyond are being removed. That's it, just a clarification.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
All right.
And thank you for your consideration.
Yes, thanks. All right, and let's see. I'm going to open the public hearing, and Chris, do we have any public comments on this item that need to be read into the record?
No.
Okay. I've not received any public hearing requests either. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. And let's see here. Chris, I do have one clarification. I think this goes to Ian's comment that there will be a portion that is removed in the rear in order to comply with the 15% reduction. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, actually, the exhibit in the staff report is accurate. It shows the area that would be removed.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Well, I think that the new redesign will be a nice addition to the street. The project overall is very well designed. The proposed scale and massing is compatible with the character of the neighborhood. The addition is proposed in the rear half of the property with screening from the street. And in terms of side yards, the project will have setbacks that are in character with the abutting residences, particularly on the west side where the subject residence has a non-conforming side yard setback. I think the project reduces portions of the building's footprint and profile. So with that, I can make the findings for the minor exception permit. The requested minor exception will not interfere with the purpose of the zone or the standards of the zone in which the property is located. Except for the minor setback reductions, the project meets the development standards of the zone. Neighboring properties will not be adversely affected as a result of the approval of the minor exception permit. The approval of the minor exception permit will not be detrimental to health, safety, or welfare of the general public. And with that, I will determine that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guideline section 15301, class 1, existing facilities. And I approve resolution ZA 21-008, the minor exception permit 20-334, Hong residence, subject to the conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you,
Chris. Thank you, CI.
Thanks. Okay. All right. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have new business. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, old business. Seeing none, I will adjourn this meeting to the next regular meeting of the zoning administrator to be held on Thursday, April 22nd, 2021 at 3